Rescue of Pops Ghostly was made in 1987 by Bruce Cohn Productions for the Worlds of Wonder ActionMax. I have covered the system in episode 13. The video you are going to see is recorded from the original VHS tape transmitted to my capture card via YPBPR. As such, the video might be the highest quality version of the footage in the whole internet. Please remember that video on VHS is stored in an S-video-like fashion, but with much more compression using a color under technique. As such, the video quality is not very high. In the game's story, two children follow their dog into a haunted house. There they find a nice ghost family whose house got invaded by other spooky creatures. The children help the ghost family to reclaim their house back. The player has to shoot the evil creatures while sparing the three members of the family. Shooting the family will yield in a score punishment. From time to time a green creature appears, which fires red clouds towards the player. These clouds yield in a score punishment if the creature isn't shot in time. Personally, I like the game. Many of the creatures are puppet show dolls. They are artfully crafted and move very well. The music feels very 80s and is funky and spooky at the same time. The cover is held in the same style as the other ActionMax games, showing someone playing the system. The screen shows Pops as he flees from another ghost. I was able to do an interview with Ron Brody, the director of the game. He told me something really interesting about the location the game was recorded at.
All of the Rescue of Pops Ghostly, that was all shot in the Psycho house at Universal, where the movie Psycho was made.
I asked Mr. Brody whether he worked with puppeteers from Universal Studios or whether he contracted some on his own.
No, I actually happened to know the puppeteers, the main puppeteer. We had worked on another project together, and so I was able to contract Jim Gamble, who is an amazing puppet maker and puppeteer.
Mr. Brody told me that their abilities in the field of keying was one of the reasons Bruce Cohn Productions was contracted by Worlds of Wonder to do the 3 games for them. For the fraction of my audience who is not familiar with the term keying, I would explain keying simplified as green screen stuff.
One of the reasons that Bruce and myself were contracted to do these series is because we were one of the very first people to use Ultimat. Prior to Ultimat, they really only had chroma key. And chroma key was a very kind of a cheap process of being able to key one image onto another. We did 20 hours of programming for Home Box Office with Dick Cavett, and in that process, Bruce actually began to experiment with this Ultimat system, this new kind of keying system. And actually, when we started, we had the inventor, Mr. Vlahos, literally with a box and wires coming out of the box, and he, the inventor, actually operating the system to get it to key in.
In 1987, it was not feasible to store large amounts of video in digital format, nor to combine tracks of video in software. Tasks like this were done in an analog manner.
We went in with an art department. We created the sets within the Psycho house, you know, all the cobwebs and all, you know, all the props that were in there. And then we went ahead and shot plates. Those are background plates that then we had the puppeteers in front of green screen at that time, and they did all the animation live and composited it live, you know, in another studio. So it was done like that.
Combining multiple video layers without a powerful PC and a software suite is hard to imagine nowadays. That's why I asked Mr. Brody to mention some of the difficulties inherent to the old techniques.
Compositing multi-layers was not an easy process, and you were going down generationally. So every time you ran a pass like that, it wasn't done digitally; it was still analog in those days. So you're denigrating, you're degrading that image every time you add it. So it was kind of trying to find that balance as well, which was difficult. Image quality and the number of different images and how to get more on without having to go through multiple passes, all of that. So that's why we started to do a lot of the compositing live, because you could have different players compositing, and that's only one generation.
I asked Mr. Brody which of all the games he had made he enjoyed the most creating.
I think I enjoyed Rescue of Pops Ghostly the most, making that. It was just fun to be inside the Psycho house, and kind of we had some really great art directors that were doing that. And one of my favorite people in the world at that time was Jim Gamble, who was the puppeteer, and he was just making just these, it was fun to design the puppets with him and to get those to work. And it was just a really enjoyable process. So I think that was the most fun that I had.
My acknowledgement goes to Mr. Brody. I am so happy that he took the time and gave me the opportunity to do this interview. He was an important pioneer to FMV gaming and to light gun games. It was a big honor to me speaking to him. This is the end of the review. My name is Ben. I thank you for viewing.